Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Suvin Shetty, pathologist and head of Department of Laboratory Medicine at Hiranandani Hospital, Mumbai. I'll be introducing the faculty and welcoming all the delegates for the afternoon. We are having a webinar on a very important topic. I think there is a lot of noise. Okay. It's a very important topic for the laboratory, especially the basic and composite kind of a lab, where we are looking at some sort of a laboratory certificate, and this would be done by the NABL. So we have an introductory lecture webinar by Dr. Aparna Jairam. She'll be conducting this webinar on the introduction of basic composite program for laboratory certification by NABL, and this is an entry-level NABL. This will be a sort of a guiding for the labs to possibly go for a NABL proper accreditation later on, whenever the lab finds it suitable to introduce the speaker for the webinar. I'd like to welcome Dr. Aparna Jairam, a very dear friend of mine, who is the founder and director of Asavli, Dr. Aparna's Pathology Lab. She's the CEO of ImmuCare Labs Private Limited, the largest autoimmune center for research and diagnostic. She's a proud achiever of her Asavli lab to get the basic composite lab certification by NABL in the Mumbai. So she's one of the first ones to get the NABL entry-level NABL certified. So she'll be the best person to actually guide us through the journey. She's also the technical assessor for the NABL, as well as the CAHO representative at the CAHO Con 2020 at Cochin. Dr. Aparna, over to you.
Thank you, Suvin. Thank you, sir, and Sakshi and CAHO for giving me this opportunity to have a webinar. And I think we'll start this because we have just 1 hour duration, and I would like to cover as much as possible and share my experience as well. So we begin. Yeah. So, when we move across the country and in various sectors, particularly, forget the 3 cities, but tier 2 cities, and we talk about NABL, people are either, the reactions are of 2 types. Either they are in awe, oh my God, NABL, or they are scared because they feel that it's just impossible. That's the perception, which is wrong. Absolutely, once we go through this, that it's impossible for a small or a medium-sized labs to actually dream of getting this. When we look at the statistics, approximately people say there are around so many labs, like 1 lakh labs. I think there are more than that, because still there are some hospital-based labs or some unaccounted labs which are not even registered. So the count may be double than what is stated here. And out of that, we can classify them around 80% are into small, supposedly small, and 18% are medium, and say around 2 to 3% are large. So what do you mean by small? Small is not the size of the lab. Small is basically the labs doing routine and basic testing. I have taken this document from NABL 128, which is there on the website, but I think that's the best way to explain to our participants so that they are encouraged to go in for this basic composite. So thanks to NABL for that. Now, other thing is, why are we all looking at this? So I'll come to it as we progress and move in the presentation. So what happens is, if you look at the statistics, it is like 80% are small. So who is serving our population? Obviously, this largest number, which is lying scattered, and they are the ones which should follow and run, or come into this run of quality. So how do we do that? Now, in India, in accreditation is not mandatory, we all know, as on today. Okay, I think this figure everybody has seen, that approximately 1% is accredited. That's very easy to say, but how to get this 1% to 100%? That's where this program is beautiful and is going to actually make this dream achievable. So if you look at this, how do we, it's we can have our training programs, we can have IQCs, we can have ICAs, we can have staff trainings, but again, to reach this 80% of the major chunk, how do we get, this is how we get into this journey. I am one of the witness for this. We started a small lab, and we followed this, and recently I was I just checked into my email yesterday, and we have been awarded by this basic composite quality medical laboratory entry level. So this program is basically a voluntary scheme which NABL has initiated, so that labs, you get maximum number of labs under this scheme, and you'll just be excited to see what is the checklist and how easy it is for a lab which performs basic IQC and PT. Okay, let's go ahead. So I'm saying this as BCML, Basic Composite Medical Laboratories. So once we do this, the laboratories, once get this, can shift to ISO 15189, whatever is the version. As on today, it's 2012. However, many people, we had almost 5 programs under this with CAHO, and people were like, can we then go back from ISO 15189 to basic composite? No, it's only to encourage small and medium sized labs. It's not to take a shortcut that you are already an NABL accredited lab and you come back to this. It's not possible. Okay, that's very good. And always we have learned that notes are very, very important. Here it says, obviously it's voluntary. Who are eligible for this? Okay, the labs which perform only basic routine tests. Now I will take you through this NABL 155, which is basically giving the scope of these basic routine tests. Don't get scared by this. I just try to make it very, very simple. The application form, I have got my own labs application form to you so that you can actually run through the form. The checklist for the scheme of quality assurance. Okay, and that's all there in NABL 155. So complete test menu of the laboratory has to be other thing, very, very important, So if you have a lab, which is a small lab, you have a CBC, you have a urine routine, you have a prothrombin time, and say, for example, HIV, you cannot choose. All these tests will have to go for the application, but it's very easy. Okay. Now, how is the certification process? I have been talking about this NABL 155. The application will be made in the form. I'll take you through that. I've got the PDF form for you all. That's under NABL 155. Okay. All the applied disciplines should be covered. I think this point, there are 3 take homes. Take homes we'll summarize again, but here, one is small to medium sized labs are encouraged by this. Criteria is, if you are ISO 15189 NABL accredited, you should not even think, because this is for encouraging labs which are not yet reaching that level. Number 3 is, once you are ISO 15189, you cannot come back to this. Is this clear? And number 4, if you have 4 tests in your lab, all the 4 going for this particular process, we have to demonstrate IQC and PT or an interlab. Okay. So how do you go? I think we submit 2 hard copies of this complete application form, which you will see, and the prescribed application fee, which also will take you through. So basically, I think, how does this start? What are the components of this? The applicant laboratory shall undertake all the testing activities in such a way that we meet the requirements as mentioned in the checklist. Okay. What does this mean? That means if you are running a blood glucose level, for example, and you are running a GOD-POD method or an hexokinase, whatever, it has to meet the requirement mentioned in either the pack inserts, which is mentioned in our checklist, which you will see. Okay. And also the latest versions of these documents like 155 or 128, okay, should be available. Legal requirements. This was something which my firm is a proprietary firm. And in fact, that's the reason we thought about reaching out to all of you with the webinar. One is you can just, once you're following IQC, ICAS, machine maintenance and staff, you can actually go for this. It's very, very good and helpful for you. So how do you start with the legal requirement? Legal requirements will be, yes, is it a proprietary firm, a LLP or a private limited, whatever it is under this, we need to give the document proof for it. Many of us, particularly I've seen small and medium sized labs are proprietary firms. Then how do you go for it? Because you don't have any certificate for that. So there is a self-declaration. I think we all will be available for any more doubts on CAHO as well. But you can have your self-declaration of proprietary firm with the local place where your lab is running, the leave and license agreement. That itself should be good enough. Then the name of the laboratory. Suppose you say ABC lab. If your lab is called as XYZ, you cannot get the certificate in the name of ABC. Okay. So it will be the same. What is there in your legal document? It cannot be different. Scope of services. Now, scope of services means, again and again I'm mentioning that whatever is processed in your lab will have to be covered under this. Number two, the test methods will have to be as per the current national or international guidelines. If you are having your in-house procedures which you are following, then such procedures will have to be validated. Only those procedures can be accepted. Now, this is the way, actually, this is so simple that the form mentions how the scope has to be given. I have just put it in the form of the PowerPoint so that we can actually make it more simpler. So application form must be filled up carefully so that these things, what you can see, that materials or items, as you see the application form which I'll just load, you will understand it's very, very simple. For example, if it is CBC, you will take an EDTA sample. Okay. But is CBC a test? It's a group of tests. So you'll have to write HB, RBC, PCV. Don't just write CBC because it's a complete blood count or complete blood hemogram. Then what is the method which you're using? The range or limits which is mentioned in your kit insert mostly, and the percentage CV. That you will only get, they are writing desirable. But if you are doing IQC, I think it's very, very easy to get the CV of your parameters. Okay. Then here is the catch. I think when I spoke to NABL about this, that okay, I'm doing thyroid. Okay, that doesn't make me a big lab. Okay, because thyroid is like a commodity in any lab nowadays. Or if you're doing possibly a sputum for AFB, then am I qualified for this? Yes, you are. Okay. So lab is allowed to add few basic tests, like the catch here is up to 10% of the total number of tests. That means if you're doing 100 routine tests, your thyroids can be up to 10%, that is 10. Okay. But if you're doing 200 thyroids and possibly 300 patient samples, then it is more than the 10% of the test. Apart from this, if you are doing anything special, then you are not coming under basic composite lab. So what are the three things? One is small to medium size lab, having the legal identity, the same name as the name mentioned in your legal identity. Number two is having an IQC and proficiency testing. And number three is a few basic tests which are mentioned here should not be more than 10%. Then we are not qualified under the basic composite lab criteria. Now, infrastructure. Whenever I go for setups of labs in various hospitals, they say, Dr. Aparna, we want to do NABL, but then people are telling us you should have a big lab, you should have a lot of, a proper infrastructure. Yes, agreed. But NABL doesn't say that you have a 10,000 or a 5,000 square feet lab. It just says that the infrastructure should be such that it is not going to be compromising the test results. For example, if you have a microbiology, it's a AFB sputum you are doing, or you are doing stool routine in an AC room, okay, do you think, that's the basic requirement of infrastructure. So it's not something scary, though the word sounds scary, okay. The applicant laboratory shall intimate the NABL. Now what happens is, many times your staff, particularly in small and medium sized labs, you see there is a staff attrition, okay. That's what I'm facing. So I think when that happens, or if you're changing your location, say for example, your lease, your landlord says, no, now you go, your lease is increased, you change your location, within 15 days, you have to intimate NABL. Resources required. Now, NABL expects that the laboratory, I think this is a repetition, that you cannot do something in-house without being validated. Okay. The second point is, yes, most important, participate satisfactorily. What does that mean, satisfactorily? I have seen labs having ECAS, or what we call PT, and the result comes, they download it and they put it in the box file rather. That's not enough. NABL doesn't want you to spend money and just download the papers. What it wants is whether your participation is effective. Are you somewhere passing in the PT test? Passing means, is the result acceptable? And if it is not, then what are the corrective actions? What is the preventive action? Or what is the RCA? You know, all that means satisfactory. That word satisfactory. And in case ECAS is not done, then interlaboratory with obviously an accredited setup. Okay, but I guess when you are a basic composite lab, you have good options for PT, which are cheaper and easily available. Okay, and obviously the staff, you know, that is another thing which will come here, that small and medium sized labs will have staff doing multitasking. It's okay, but they have to be competent enough to demonstrate their competency in the activities which they are placed for. So it's very, very simple. Okay, so all you need to know is, once you have one, you should have a lab. Number two, you should have equipments, obviously, which are as per maintained, calibrated. Number three, staff, and obviously the patients. Okay, and then you can go for this. So what you need is the application form, which you will see, and the checklist, which is also there in 155. It's very, very simple. And the fee, application fee, is just 1,000 rupees plus taxes. What you need to do is fill up the form, which you will see now, download, take 2 printouts with the DD or a check. With the checklist, you have to post it to NABL. So I'll just take you through that application form. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is the application form where you write the name of the laboratory. Okay, it's there. It's called as, if I'll just quickly make you see this. I'm sorry for being so fast, but yeah, this is called as application form and checklist for quality assurance for basic composite medical laboratory. Okay, and yes, that is not of our, you know, what we need to do is, obviously I have read all these instructions for you. Yes, that is where your form starts. So name, location and address, legal identity, is it a proprietary firm, private, limited, whatever it is, GST number with PAN card. How do you want your certificate to look in English, obviously? And this is what I was talking about, the scope. So type, this all is provided. What you need to do is fill in the blanks. Okay. So you have the type of the samples, the tests, and the standard method. Okay. So I have taken four is equipment. You write the name of the equipment, the model and the make. You know, it's very simple. You just have that in your installation file, the receipt of date and the calibration date and who has done it. All these documents are available with you. You just have to convert them into the table. Then most important, proficiency testing. Here either you have a PT class or an interlab. So you write that what, okay, for CBC, which one are you doing? What was the Z score or the performance criteria? Was there any corrective action in, you know, so you have to give, in short, your kundali of your lab's performance. Then number 6 is application fee. As I said, 1,000, you can give check or DD. And then the declaration has to be signed. This is so simple, isn't it? And then you have the checklist, which is there in the same form. You have to fill the first column, that is to be filled by the applicant laboratory. Here it starts with the scope, that what are you doing? Are you doing biochemistry? Okay. Which are the tests you are doing? Okay. If you're not doing, say, CSF spinal fluid, you write no. It's okay. You're not doing amylase, lipase, you just write no. Then hematology, you can decide and see what you're doing and what you're not doing. Microbiology, HIV, very important here. In HIV, we have to follow NACO guidelines, obviously. Then infrastructure, which I just took you to my presentation. What does this mean? So here, is your lab having a signage inside, outside, showing the person in charge, what is the qualification? Okay. Obviously the registration number, what are the services you are providing? Are there any other consultants who are coming into your lab, like part-time microbiologist or part-time hematologist? Then you have to write, is there a phone, internet facility, the fee structure, you know, your basic tariff structure. Then the hygiene and the safety, yes, common sense. I mean, everything has to be dust free and good housekeeping, but you have to demonstrate with the housekeeping charts. Then stands universal standard precautions, like, you know, I think waste disposal, very, very important. And then we have to show, you know, all of us have that waste disposal agreement with us, which is renewed. You have to also be able to show that the waste is picked up. There's a log of waste pickup, the waste discard maintained with us. And obviously, when you come to the personnel, the training of the person also. Then fire exit, at least one fire extinguisher is desirable when you are a small lab, isn't it? So they are writing desirable, but I think that means we should ideally have, and demonstrate with the signages the fire exit. So that is about infrastructure. Come to the space requirement. Yes, you, as I told you, you need not have a big 5-star lab, but what you need to have is these basic things, like, you know, washrooms, drinking water, waiting area, sample collection, good lighting, or, you know, where you are doing your phlebotomy, or near your phlebotomy chair, you can have a spot lighting. Reporting area, billing area can be combined. Washing area can be in the clinical pathology section. And preservation, if you're doing histopath, or you know, preservation of your slides. Electric facilities, suppose you are in an area where there is constant breakdown, then do you have a UPS? Okay, if you have, at least that is desirable. A generator is pretty expensive, but at least that backup needs to be there. Temperature control for specialized equipment, like if you have a dry chemistry analyzer, you need to have ideally, you know, 24-degree temperature maintained ambient. And counseling room for HIV, because, you know, that's as per NACO guidelines. So furnitures and fixtures, obviously we said about telephones and at least mobile numbers, because nowadays very few people have you know, landlines. Then coming to human resource, very, very important. Minimum qualification of technical head. Here desirable is MBBS from a recognized university, preferably with medical laboratory experience. The authorized signatory will be liable for authenticity of the laboratory report. Now this is actually my own checklist which I am showing. So what this says is, suppose in an area you don't have an MD pathologist, okay, but you have an MBBS doctor, but he should be exposed to medical laboratory experience, and wherever interpretations of lab results like malarial parasite, or for example a bilirubin, or ammonia, or possibly a CPK, you know, something where an interpretation is involved, this person is required to be competent enough to demonstrate that. Okay, that is what it is saying. So when you come here, I think desirable from university with medical laboratory experience is important. Then lab technicians, either BMLT, BSc MLT or MSc with this qualification. Obviously, it goes without saying competency. Support staff, like people who are there for washing, cleaning, which we call as lab assistants or lab attendants, for roster of, you know, basically, how do you know that there are these people? Then there has to be either the attendance register, or the roster, or something which shows you that there is this many number of people in the lab, which will be undergoing periodic health checkups and vaccinations. That's the basic thing which needs to be addressed. And do you have that? So the first column is obviously self-filled by the lab. Then equipment. So what are the equipments which you have, and they have to be obviously as per the scope which you are applying. If you do you have a hot air oven or an autoclave? If it is there, then sterilization records, list of reagents and consumables, which will be MSDS with the reagents, and obviously AMC or CMC of these machines with the logs. Okay? Legal and statutory, where whether you have waste disposal, whether you have NPCB, record maintenance. This is very important. That list of all patients state wise till the ideally next audit, we ideally keep it for three years at least. Medical legal records, particularly where will this be important for HIV, and particularly for HIV or even pregnancy tests if you're doing. Record keeping for technicians working in laboratory, basically we call that as a staff file or HR file. So that's record keeping is important, where you have their CVs, you have their health checkups, where you have their vaccination records, training records, that will be there in that, or training on the file, on the equipment. Those records needs to be maintained. And obviously availability of reference books or journals, and preservation of record. And how much time do you preserve? 1 month, 2 months, possibly. Okay. Then this is standards on basic processes like infection control, as per biomedical waste disposal, safety considerations like disposal of sharps, patient education, procedure for calibrations and equipments. You will have to demonstrate all this. That is, equipment file will have to show all this. Then SOPs. Are you having SOPs or SOPs for some parameters like order of draw, waste disposal, or needle stick injury, or fire, and other SOPs can be taken from the pack inserts which are current and highlighted, so that they are kept in one place so that they are available for the staff. Then grievance and registration and disposal mechanism, very very important for both the staff, patients and clinicians. Is there a mechanism, so which we can call it as a feedback, suggestion, or a complaint register? Quality control in the form of internal quality, at least one level to be run on the day of testing, and interlaboratory. What does this mean? That means if you're a very small lab and you're running, say ammonia is in your scope, and you're not running ammonia every day. So, but the day you're running it, that day's one level control before the test is analyzed has to be demonstrated and recorded. And interlaboratory comparison, whenever if you don't have any CAS, you have not registered for ammonia, for example, you can have an interlab for that, or electrolytes. If commonly we pick up small packages in PT, and then you want to have confidence in the terms of quality, then you can have an interlab comparison for those parameters. Obviously, this is not for us. This is for the assessor when he or she comes. So quickly, I'll take you to just one more, which is NABL 128. This is called, again, it's available on the website, NABL 128. I just want you to take you through this particularly. Yeah. So when you apply, what happens? The registration of the application comes with the unique ID. Once you take the printouts of this 155 with the checklist and the check and or the demand draft, what happens is the application register, the NABL sends you an email that okay, they have received this. Then they give you a unique ID number and they do the acknowledgement and scrutiny. Is that then if the application is complete or no? If it is not complete, they send you a mail. They also call you to tell you that okay, this is the corrective act. I mean, this is the deficiency. What is the corrective action? We have to submit it within 7 days. If you are submitting yes, then obviously they check your participation in the proficiency testing, and if you are submitting, that's how it goes. So participation in proficiency testing is evidence. Initial assessment is done by NABL. Then is the lab recommended by the assessment team? Yes, with NC, or just no. If it is with NCs, then again there is, I think there is again a decision taken for given a corrective action time, or it is left to the committee. So I think most important what I want to tell you here is the moment you send this application, you get a response quickly from them that, okay, this is your unique ID number. Now onwards, you'll correspond with this unique ID. They scrutinize, they send you a mail, they also call you, they tell you that, okay, Dr. Aparna, this is what is missing, you know. So do you have that? If you have it, good. You submit that particular proof in the email and the hard copy to NABL. And that's when then they check your IQC class, and they give you this recognition for um, whether you are recommended or no. And then this particular thing is valid for 3 years, and their assessment happens at least once in 3 years to witness whatever you have submitted to NABL. So, you know, the issue of the certificate is valid for 3 years. You may reapply, or you may, I mean, the aim is to go in for ISO 15189. Once you have done these basic things in 3 years, we can gather enough knowledge, enough, we are all there to guide, so that we go ahead with the proper accreditation. So with that, I'll just take you through the last slide. Yeah. So it's as simple as is demonstrated. I'll tell you, I got introduced to this in one of the in our CAHO last year, which was in 2019, and we felt, why don't we do it, because we are a small to medium sized hospital based lab, and we started working on it. And you know, it took us a team, obviously it's a teamwork and motivation, and here we are. We got recognition, and we have complied with this 155, and yeah, I think that's what Suvin introduced. So with that, if there are, I would like to have more, because we do have workshops on this, which are like 1.5 day workshops. You can't just go through it in 1 hour, but the intention here is to sensitize as many people as possible, so that you actually jump in and take this opportunity of stepping up our confidence, joining hands with NABL. So with that, if I would like to take more questions, so that we actually understand whether what I've shown, is it a monologue or a dialogue. So Sakshi, there, I would like
to. Are you there? So, Aparna, one of the questions is, how many months of participation in ICWAS is required before filling up the application form?
Actually, sir, it's not mentioned in this, but at least one, one PT. You have to be, that's what I did. So I think I gave them 2 PT of biochemistry and 1 of CDC, 1 of hematology, and interlab for clinical pathology. So I think it's very, very simple, sir. If let's look at it as one. Yeah.
So is the assessment physical or online only?
It is, as it's mentioned, after the scrutiny of the forms. Okay, it's basically first scrutiny, and then on-site assessment will happen anytime after they grant you this in the next 3 years.
So that's not a precondition for granting you the certificate?
No, sir. No, sir. I mean, obviously you have to fulfill all the criteria whichever are listed in 155. So I don't know if I had. I don't know if somebody from other labs is there as our attendees who can share their experience, who are still, because we had, sir, as you are aware, we had a couple of programs based in Chennai and Kerala for this. We had sent invites to them as well. So many of them have started filling the form. So I would like to have their feedbacks here as well, which will encourage the participants.
So Sarfraz Lakhani, who had asked that is the assessment physical or online only, is also writing. So as I understand, certification is not dependent upon assessment. as long as the checklist is completed in toto, certification is granted. But
Yeah.
as you explained that the online, on-site inspection can take place within the next 3 years anytime.
Okay.
That's what you meant.
Yes. So I saw some questions here, sir. Sorry, I just saw. How many months of participation? That's what you asked me.
Yeah, already I've asked you these questions which have appeared here.
Okay. Thank you.
That questions I've asked you.
Huh.
Now, I think all I can say is that the way Aparna has explained in her inimitable style and from simplicity, I don't think there should be much scope for people to be confused. Hope that many more people need to kind of listen to this webinar all over again. So I think, Aparna, you need to also circulate to a lot of people.
Sir,
And
we are also planning, like I mean, you are aware, but for other people who are into these participants, that we are planning to have a Maharashtra-based and Kerala-based program for this, where we want a small and medium-sized labs to come into our journey of CAHO with NABL. I think there is one question, sir.
no, there is that question I already asked you.
Assessment charges 1,000. No, includes assessors. No. It's not 10,000. It is. I'll just type it, sir. It's 1,000 plus taxes.
Yeah.
Basic.
Written it is 1,000.
Yeah, and then once NABL accepts it, it's also written in 155 and 128. Then we have to pay 30,000 rupees. That is one-time fee. So initially, sir, it is 1,000 rupees. Pinky Joshi, she's asking this.
Yes.
I hope I have answered it. And Pinky, this is there on the website in 155 and 128. I can also share this presentation to you in case you want.
This will be on the CAHO website. This whole webinar will be available on the CAHO website within the next 48-72 hours.
So,
You can go and listen to this whole webinar, see the presentation all over again also. So I think, has Suvin logged out, or where is Suvin?
I can't see him, sir.
Okay. So in that case, I think we thank Dr. Aparna Jairam for this absolutely wonderful presentation. Once again, there is Sarfraz writing. Somewhere I read that there is a certification fee of rupees 10,000. So you are already clarifying that the fees is 1,000 and whatever you said.
Yeah, sir, there is one more question. Niladri Haidar, any possibility to go through this PPT? Yes, Niladri, we will be sharing it on our website as Dr. Agarwal sir said. Sudarshan Sundarajan is asking, do you need to be qualified quality manager? Not at all. First of all, there is nothing called as qualified quality manager, but you just need to go through this and demonstrate what you're doing in your lab. I think that's the intention of NABL and CAHO to make, that's why this is easily doable. I hope I have answered your question, Sudarshan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So thanks, Aparna, and for this wonderful presentation. And we'll get any feedback. If there is anything, then you can please write to CAHO or to Aparna, and we'll be very happy to answer your questions. So thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Suvin.